Hey hooligans, today we are doing the impossible task of ranking all of the characters from best to worst from the Umbrella Academy Season 4. And I say this is an impossible task because if you've seen my review already, you know that all of these characters have essentially been ruined from the seasons prior. So for example, Klaus used to definitely be an A tier character, S tier, maybe even the best character of all, but it is certainly not the case anymore. So I will only be talking about the season 4 characters, so that means I won't be talking about any of the Sparrow Academy characters, even though that Sloan was supposed to be in the season. Also stay tuned because at the end I have a secret character to talk about. I wonder who it's gonna be. Okay, so let's just go through my tier list ranking system, starting with the best characters, which by the standards of season 4 are really not that great already, so they get a warning. It's not too bad, but it's bearable. But after that, the offenses start getting more serious because you are now getting fined after getting a warning. And then after that, not only are you getting a fine, you're also going on probation. And you guys know what's coming after probation. You're going straight to jail, lock them up. And the very last category is the electric chair, reserved for the most devious, heinous crimes. So starting off with Sir Reginald Hargreaves, you know, from previous seasons, he was a pretty interesting, well-acted character. He always had something up his sleeves. He always was the mastermind behind everything. But this season, you know, he was just kind of a regular old man who didn't really know what was happening. And unfortunately, he's getting some jail time for being a terrible father, being a terrible mastermind, being a terrible alien, just a disgrace to the show. And speaking of aliens, the next alien is Abigail. So I'm going to put Abigail under probation. She's not as bad as Reginald this season because she did get to do a little bit more. Although we didn't really see her as her true self throughout the season, she did play up a few characters. She pretended to be, I believe his name was Sai, who, you know, kidnapped Viktor from the start and kind of kicked things off. And ultimately it was her plan to activate the cleanse and restore the timelines. So, you know, she's not that interesting and she didn't get too much screen time, and that made her ultimate reveal kind of disappointing, but she's still better than Reginald. Okay, now let's talk about Viktor. My main problem with Viktor ever since season 3 was that he kind of has been nerfed from what he once was. He used to be so powerful, world-ending levels of powers, but now he's kind of just nerfed to like just shooting beams of energy essentially. But I will give him a pass, which means I will give him a warning this season. I mean, I guess there's not really any more chances now, is there? But he was the one that contributed to the main plot. What happened to him was actually relevant to the story this season. He was the one who teamed up with Reginald to go find Ben and Jennifer and try to stop everything. His main offense this season is just kind of yelling a lot, in my opinion, at least from what I remember, and just not being as powerful as he once was. Next up is Claire, our little sweet Claire bear. You know, I'm going to just give you a fine, Claire, because you are a sweet child. But I can't put you in the best category because obviously you were a side character, but you have done nothing wrong. You are just being a sweet child, so you're just getting fined. Okay, now let's talk about Ben, who, keep in mind, this is not the original Ben. This is the Sparrow Academy version of Ben. You know, he's an asshole for sure, but he did get to contribute to some interesting scenes. At least we got to see his powers used the most that we have ever have in this season. I liked how he was like walking on all of his tentacles. That was cool. And overall, the season was trying to push him for more screen time, which I thought was a mistake because he's just not that interesting. But I will say, out of all of the characters, he got a lot of action. He was integral to the plot. So I will have to give him a warning. But speaking of tentacle squid characters, next up is Jennifer, who is basically a MacGuffin. You know, she was introduced just as a plot device. She literally had no development, no depth at all. She was there to basically merge with Ben and then ultimately die. So I feel like she wasted a lot of our times, to be honest, and she had no chemistry with Ben. So straight to jail, ma'am. You are getting locked up immediately. All right, next up is Diego. First of all, Diego is Poppy. I really like Diego. I think honestly Diego is what Luther wants to be. He's more of a leader than Luther has ever been, to be honest. He did get some cool moments in the season, especially when he teamed up with Luther and then he lost his shirt and then he was like shirtless fighting everyone. That was a cool scene. And also, he did not deserve the betrayal from Lila and 5. So I feel really bad for him, and maybe it's the pity, but I'm going to have to put him under the warning category because he's the most likable out of everyone, to be honest, and you know, he's Poppy. Okay, next up is the bennifer amalgamation kaiju monster thing. I'm going to put him under fine because he did at least end the whole series. He's the reason why it all ended, so we have him to thank, I guess. And the CGI looked decent. I mean, it wasn't the greatest. It looked really janky at parts, but I feel like they spent a good amount of their CGI budget on this guy. So just for that, you're getting fined. You're getting fined for more money for spending all the CGI and probably taking away from seeing Pogo for more scenes. Okay, next up is Allison. It just hurts my soul to see some of my favorite characters get decimated to essentially nothing this season. But Allison got some power upgrades this season where she's able to use her rumor abilities without saying I heard a rumor, which honestly I feel like was not a great improvement. I wish she had to keep saying I heard a rumor because that's what made her unique. But she got some cool some action scenes where she was able to use that power, but ultimately her story was just relegated to saving Klaus. So she had really nothing going on. I'm going to fine her because at least she got some action scenes, she got some power upgrades that were cool. So I feel like that's fair. Okay, next up is Quinn, who was the guy who was pimping out Klaus. Straight to jail. I mean, he was the reason why Klaus was stuck underground for so long and gave our little Klaus a terrible storyline this season. So straight to jail, sir. You are a horrible human being, and I wish you weren't in the season. I wish you died before. Okay, next up is 5. Ooh, this is gonna be a tough ranking. But 5 was definitely most people's favorite character, I would say. And I still love Aidan Gallagher as his character. I think he plays him so well. But the whole relationship thing with Lila, oh my god, that was so icky. It haunts me in my dreams, honestly. And it kind of just assassinated his character because he would never betray Diego like that, and he would always try to focus on helping his family. Instead, this season he almost abandoned that for his relationship with Lila, which was just so messed up. But he still did some things this season, right? He jumped on the subway and figured out that the ultimate way to end things is by erasing their existence after he met up with the rest of the 5s, which also made no sense, but he did some things. I can't put him any lower than fine, so I'm going to put him under fine. Usually he would definitely be top tier at least, but this season I can't forgive him for the Lila thing. I just can't. Okay, next up are the Jeans. I put them together because they were always together and they kind of function as a unit. And thank you for the comments on my review because yes, now I remember they were the ones that did the dance scene, which I didn't even remember because it was so forgettable, and they kind of took away the dancing from the rest of the Umbrella Academy, so I kind of blamed them for that. But like I said in my review, they kind of just remind me of a Walmart version of Cha-Cha and Hazel. They were trying to have that same quirky, villainous energy, but just not done as well. And I feel like they didn't get to do much besides in the beginning, because at the end they got killed by Abigail pretty fast and they never put up a fight otherwise. So I think I'm gonna put them under probation. I don't think they were as bad as like Jennifer. They at least did some things. So yeah, probation makes sense. Okay, next up is Luther. Oh my goodness, Luther is probably my least favorite character ever. He basically was just a stripper this season, and he kept on making the same jokes about being a stripper, and he is just not a leader anymore. His whole thing previously was trying to figure out how to be a leader, but now what is he? He's not Allison's love interest, he's not Sloane's love interest, he's not a leader, he's not essential to the group. He's just a gorilla man, and that didn't even make sense, because why would the Marigold restore his ape body? So he was just honestly insufferable to me, and I'm sorry, Luther, but you're going to jail for mental damages to me. So that's where you belong. Okay, next up is Lila. Now, as you guys know, I am very, very, very disturbed by the relationship between her and Five. However, I think I will have to put her a little higher than Five, because at least she got a little bit of a storyline about her family, and at the very last episode she was kind of the essential part of the story, where she almost joined her family and would have ruined the rest of the plans of merging the timelines again, but ultimately she decided to be a hero and sacrifice herself. So she did get a little bit of a development, right? Dealing with family and being a mother. So I think that puts her above Five for me. She gets more of a storyline, she gets some focus. I do have an issue with her developing laser eyes for no reason, so that's annoying. But out of all of the characters, she definitely had like the most story, and for that I'm going to put her under warning. Okay, now let's talk about Klaus, who is previously one of the best characters. He had so many cool plot lines, like becoming a cult leader, falling in love with Dave, trying to save him, just a lot of potential, becoming literally immortal. This season though, he spent most of it underground and unable to save himself, and just unable to do anything, to be honest. He started off the season being really scared of death, and then when he got his powers back, he essentially relapsed and became a junkie again. And it was just really sad to see his development go backwards, but not improve by the end of the season. And I understand someone left in the comments said that's kind of how addiction works, but it's not really great to see a character do that at the very end of a series. And besides that, he just was doing pointless side quest things this entire season, did not contribute to the overall fight at all. Even in episode 2, when the rest of the Umbrella Academy were at least doing some fighting, he was just waiting by the truck, the van, and didn't do anything. And it just makes me so mad. I love Klaus so much, but it's only fair to put him under probation this season, because what happened to him was ridiculous. Okay, and last but not least, who is our mystery character? Why, yes, it is Netflix themselves. In fact, they are the biggest villains of the season because of how they assassinated everybody. And they are the reason why this tier list was so impossible to make. And they absolutely deserve to be in the electric chair. Okay, now to do some reordering of things. I think in the warning category, I'm going to put Lila as the best because she had the most character. I will put Ben as the second best because he got the most action of all the heroes. And then I'll put Diego as third, just because of that shirtless scene. Yeah, this feels right. And then in the fine category, I'll put Allison first. I'll put 5 as second, Claire's 3, and the kaiju as 4th. And then under probation, this is a tough one. I'm gonna put Jean and Jean under 1st in probation. And then I'm gonna have Klaus as the last one in that category. And then in jail, yeah, Reginald can be 1st. Yeah, this order actually seems fine. Yeah, Luther is definitely dead last in jail. Okay, so that's my tier list. Obviously, this list is kind of for fun. It's really not based on science. It's not based on stats. It was my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys thought. How would you have ranked each character? Obviously, there's no good way of ranking these characters because they were all so bad this season. Also, if you guys haven't seen my review just yet, go ahead and go check it. I rant for way longer there. I talk about the plot holes that happened, and it's a fun time. I lose my mind a little bit. But besides that, that is all I had for you guys today, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Hey hooligans, if you enjoyed this tier list video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and check out some of my other videos available right now.